pterodactyls, back in the Civil War, and they spread these things out. Anybody can look it up online.
Google it
They
yourself.
spread these things out, and this is a historical fact. So, they spread this thing out, and it's got a huge winglet. It was a pterodactyl they shot. So, of course, these things have been around. Now, they went extinct, obviously, slowly, but surely. And so...
What I'm saying is Jesus wrote a dinosaur to work. That's history. It's in the Bible. How to Train Your Dragon.
Historical facts.
And if you don't believe it, do your own research. Pull up Google. You'll find the picture, I promise.
Oh my God.
Thank you, John Gleason, Godless engineer, for gifting me this beautiful moment. Y'all remember when they tried to cancel Steven Spielberg for posing with an animatronic triceratops? Animal rights activist.
Back it up.
Hit it from the back.
Cloaca. Historical facts.
Eat my ass, BP. You're down here bailing on the rest of us because you don't want to process your grief and shame like a normal person by drinking and mistreating strangers.
No, Rick. It is you who must nibble my cloaca, or bird asshole.
Everyone knows what a cloaca is.
back in the Civil War, and they spread these things out. Anybody can look it up online. They spread these things out, and this is a historical fact. So, they spread this thing out, and this has got a huge winglet. It's a pterodactyl they shot. So, of course, these things have been around. Now, they went extinct, obviously, slowly, but surely. And so...
Paul Bunyan was sharing some Funyuns with his pet velociraptor.
Whoa.
Oh, you thought it was an ox? Roll back the clock. Let me knock the socks off. Historical facts.
I didn't cut out. You heard me. You a pervert or something? Okay.
Huh? Oh, yeah, well, I just changed it. I should not be muted. All right. What's up, heathens? How y'all doing? I'm the Godless Engineer, and I critically analyze apologist claims in order to give you the best arguments and information so that you can stand up and use your voice. If I can remember my tagline correctly, I wouldn't look a little foolish. But tonight we're going to be looking at Kurt Haley. Subscribe. Thank you, Kurt. Tonight we're going to be taking a look at Todd Friel from the Wretched channel.
Woo! Beer money.
Already getting some beer money. David says good night. Good night there, David. I got some crack and cream soda, and I'll drink it and probably one more for you. But oh, that's extra crackety, huh? Anyways, tonight we're going to be taking a look at Todd Friel. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Anyways, he comes from the channel called Wretched. Originally, I thought that it was called Wretched, because I must have some kind of undiagnosed dyslexia or something like that, because I feel like that's what that is. But anyways, he comes from a channel called Wretched, and they do a lot of Christian apologetics, and they're pretty much just geared towards helping the general believer.
Hey, this person just bought an express ticket to hell.
God damn, Quentin, buying that express ticket to hell. Quentin sending in his weekly tithe. All of the puppies are going to be so thrilled. And I will have more information about the charity that we picked after this intro. But So we're going to be taking a look at Todd tonight. He's going to try to convince us that Christianity is real. Just to preface, I know that Christianity is real in the sense that it really exists, like as a religion, but I think what he's really talking about here is the truth of Christianity. He's going to be teaching us how to convince atheists of the truth of Christianity. So, if you heathens want to fuck around and find out the truth of Christianity, then please stay tuned. Sorry about that. My stream deck is apparently still not completely set up, which is technical difficulties with GE kind of time. We are going to be running a bit of a truncated show because we're not going to be having Brosivas come on tonight and give us a little bit of a Today I Learned. And we're also not really going to be having any...
donating this much only makes me drink more.
Sorry, Brosifas isn't going to be giving us a shitty ass science, but I'm not going to be doing any Today I Learned, but I do have some comments that I wanted to go through tonight. But before we get into all of that kind of goodness, I want to say a big thanks there to Mike Hopkins sending in a super chat. I appreciate that. And then I believe, did we decide to go with American Humane there, hun? Okay, so yes, we are going to be going with American Humane, and they help out the puppies and the kitties and all of that, just all over. Is it the world? Are they global or dipshit, John? They're American. they help out people, they help out animals across the U.S. And it's actually on the front page of their thing. It has a Betty White Challenge hashtag, and so we'll be donating to them this month. So if you want to help us bump up those any kind of donation that we might make, you can send a super chat in. You can become a Skeptic Mafia member, or just watching our videos here at Godless Engineer helps us donate money to good causes, thereby solidifying the fact that we are the shittiest atheists on the internet ever. The worst atheists. Last year, we were, because of you heathens and mafiosos, y'all... Because of you heathens and mafiosos out there watching our content, becoming members, and sending super chats, we've been able to donate over $8,000 to charity just last year alone. So I'm hoping that we can maybe get those numbers up, as the Wolf of Wall Street meme goes. Those are rookie numbers. We got to pump that shit up. But anyways, so if you want to help contribute, then consider sending a super chat. It always helps. We've got Elizabeth Richardson, who says,
To Timothy, what the fuck ever, shut the fuck up.
Elizabeth Richardson says, a weekly tithe to help the critters. Hopefully I'll be ready to adopt a kitty soon. Oh, that'd be cool there, Elizabeth. And then we got Lisa for Truth, who says, why do these nuts not know most of us used to be Christian? That's actually a pretty apt thing to point out here, because it still baffles me how here in the United States, we have people that think that, we just haven't heard of Jesus. And, you got these billboards about Jesus and like finding Christ and everything like that. And it's just like, what the fuck? We all, like, nearly everybody in the United States has either been exposed to Christianity or has been Christian themselves. So I really don't think that all of that advertising is all that necessary. Not to mention the fact that, at least down here in the South, you can hardly throw a stone in any city or town and not hit like 3 different churches that are all right next to each other. So it's a little crazy. But anyways, we do have comments to get through tonight because I got some shit to say about stuff that's been put on the internet. And so I think that we're going to jump right on over to that. There. All right. So this is comments of the day. Prepare to face bomb yourself into next week. I know. I actually had to work hard to like get it to sound that bad. Like, I specifically like hit certain things really. Like, I actually had to think about, I got to play this like shit. But anyways, first up on the show tonight is Sawyer Hackett, making a great point against Greg Abbott. So Greg, this is on Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. Greg Abbott said, nearly 60 years ago, Martin Luther King Jr. articulated a vision of freedom, equality, and opportunity in his famous I Have a Dream speech. He inspired hope in our nation, and that beacon of hope and liberty still burns bright in Texas. Hashtag MLK Day. Now, it's really funny because of how much effort there is to basically whitewash history in recent like years. It's really kind of freaking weird to me. But Sawyer brings up a good point saying, you signed a bill this year that eliminated requirements for schools to teach about Martin Luther King Jr. Now, I'm not sure if that's what the bill actually did. I'm not sure how accurate Sawyer's description of the bill is, but I think that it definitely represents the efforts that are going on right now in the socio-political sphere of America in trying to like recontextualize almost like the civil rights movement and all this other stuff. And people that would definitely be on the pro-segregation side are now like championing MLK Day, and it's kind of a mind fuck, to be quite honest. It's weird, but I just kind of wanted to bring that up right there. And don't talk about fucking politics. I came here for shitting on Christian peoples. We do that enough. All right, so next up is this this post, which this is actually an old post. I've seen this being shared around for a while, but I don't think I've covered it on this particular segment on the channel before. But so it's a CNN article where it says a woman in a coma gives birth and now police want DNA from male workers at the healthcare facility. Obviously, that's a reasonable ask right there because she didn't magically become pregnant. You know, there had to have been some exchange of bodily fluids in that. Since she's in a coma, she definitely did not consent. So, I mean, it's like, yeah, we're going to need samples. But this person chimes in and says, I don't think DNA tests should be done. Let's receive it as a miracle like we have the Virgin Mary's birth. Or is man too intelligent to ever believe in something so extraordinary that new life somehow produced itself while this woman was in a coma? Perhaps she had a dream of having a sexual encounter with her husband, that her body thought it was real enough to produce a pregnancy, or perhaps... I don't know what that perhaps was, but it cannot be anything good. But I feel like I would expect this from maybe the mother of like the person that raped the poor woman in the coma, because it's like, oh, well, you should just receive this as a miracle. Yeah. Or the offender themselves, because it's like, you're not going to seriously suggest that the miraculous birth of the next Messiah came in this fashion. And it's really kind of weird because there is a non-zero amount of self-reported virgin births in America. And just let that sink in. There are actually people who get pregnant and don't realize that it's from the sex that they had. And so they claim virgin birth. And in this case, it's graping. And so I don't know. I kind of feel like this person we just don't need to listen to what this person is saying. And hopefully they got the DNA. I didn't even look up what the result of this was, but I'm sure that they did not be like, it's a miracle. All right, next up is this post. And, you know, as a parent, I have to wonder, like, about some of these people. Anyways, so this person says, I need to know what others think about a kindergarten teacher telling her students that when they all started out years ago, they were monkeys. Is it just me that thinks there is something wrong with this? No, good person. I guess good person, maybe. That is wrong because we didn't come from monkeys. Monkeys are actually small primates that have the tails, is how you would describe them. We're actually great apes. So we came from a common ancestor with other great apes, and we have multiple different lines of evidence for this. My favorite line of evidence is actually the chromosome 2 fusion, because we would expect that's actually a hypothesis that turned out to be fact. And so it's a great example of how evolution can change a group of organisms like radically. And so, yeah, I would say saying that we came from monkeys is wrong, but that doesn't detract from the point that we evolved from a common ancestor with other great apes. And but then you got these comments. The first person's reasonable, saying evolution is something they teach in school. Yep, that's perfectly fine, scientific and everything. Passed all the tests. And then this person comes in, the original poster, and says, well, in my opinion, they shouldn't. Myself, I believe God created me, and I didn't come from a monkey. I think the parents should have a right to choose for their children, not the teachers. Let me get this straight there, Cletus. You want to dictate what your child is being taught. Kind of sounds like maybe homeschooling is better for you, but my guess is that you probably don't have the time or the knowledge or the care to actually homeschool your child. Huh? Yeah, that's right, honey. They are too stupid. They probably don't have like all of that kind of shit. So, my suggestion is don't try to dictate what people should be taught in school or what children should be taught in school. I mean, you think that God created you instead of coming from a monkey, which isn't a scientific statement, but we'll move past that. And the reason why I say that is not because they believe in God specifically. It's because that is a faith-based position. Schools should only teach things that are outside of like religion. They should teach things that are facts. They should teach things that aren't influencing like the faiths of the children, because I feel like the faiths of the children are very personal. And while in my own opinion, I don't think that you should push a religion on your children, I do think that if anybody should have the ability to influence their child in that way, it should probably be the parents. But I still disagree with anybody pushing their faith on a child. I don't push atheism on Xander. If he ever has questions, I try to answer them as unbiasedly as I can. And if he ever has any questions or has any curiosity about Christianity or religion, I'll do my best to help him. But I still don't think that anybody should push their religion on their kids. But anyways, I don't think that this person needs to be dictating the the curriculum for children. It just does not seem like it would be the best idea. All right, next up is this dumbass tweet. That's weird. I give blood, but oh wait, I read this last week. Shit. Oh no, I accidentally copied it over. This is the one that I meant. All right, y'all. The math for it is very simple, okay? 1 jab equals 1 second of time. Right off the bat, you can tell that this person did not get like vaccinated at any point in their life where they were actually paying attention. I'm sure that they're vaccinated against the usual stuff, but as far as this goes, because it doesn't just take 1 second to do it. All right. It's a little bit more involved than that. But anyways, they are claiming to have jabbed 45% of the 7.8 billion people, 422 plus thousand years. It's ridiculous. 1 billion seconds is 37.8 years times 3, and a bit works out around, works out around 117 years at 1 jab per second. So obviously this person doesn't understand parallel processing. Apparently one lone like nurse or CVS like attendant is like doing all of the vaccinations sequentially on the whole planet. And so that's really weird. But even so, I mean, for some reason, I don't know why they would think that it's like a sequential like process. Like, oh, what did we get the call from the other place before we can jab this person? Don't forget, we got to be synchronized on this, or else the nano robots can't infest their organs. Just think it's weird to think that that is how anything would operate. All right, next up, and the last comment until we get before we get to the video tonight is this. Why moon revolves around the earth instead of the sun, which has greater attractive force than the earth? Well, the answer to your question would simply be mass and distance, really. For one thing, the moon, it is affected by the sun's gravity, but it's also more so affected by the Earth's gravity. And so it's constantly in orbit around the Earth. And so the fact is that the sun, while the sun does have a great gravitational attractive force, with the moon being closer to the Earth has more influence over the moon. Let's see. Ego
A small portion of
FTCP
this donation went to beer.
is supplying me some liquor and saying, could you please do a video on how Atheist Republic is currently being targeted by Hindutva extremists for blasphemy? Love your videos, GE. I mean, I can consider it, but typically I don't do videos on those types of subjects. It's very rare for me to do it, but I will definitely look into it. And if I think that I can add something to it, then I'll consider it. Okay. Thank you there, Ego. I appreciate you. And then we got SN Balmung, who says, I just got my 3rd shot today. Still not magnetic. You haven't been turned into Magneto? It must take some time for the CRISPR to work on your genes there.
2 Timothy, what the fuck ever? Shut the fuck up.
Now, I don't know why that one was playing for the 666. Oh, I wonder if maybe it's because it's in euros, and that's really weird. They should fix that on the site. Anyways, thank you so much there, SM Balmung. You got an express ticket to hell. Since I couldn't do it. Anyways, yeah, so I hope the CRISPR starts working faster on you there, SN, because I mean I don't have my magnetic shit yet either, so I guess I'm right there with you. But anyways, all right, so that's going to be it for the comments tonight. I hope that you guys enjoyed all those dumbass things. But we do have somewhat of a long video, and then I know that there's going to be a lot of Skeptic Mafia comments, so I just wanted to kind of get directly into it tonight. And here we go. All right, so apparently the full episode's on the website. If you want to go, I wouldn't suggest going, but you know, whatever. Now, this video tonight, we're looking at Todd Friel. He's going to be trying to convince atheists that Christianity is true, that Jesus truly resurrected from the dead, and not necessarily that we should become Christian, maybe, but just that we should accept that Christianity is true and we're wrong, I guess. So that's what he's going to be doing tonight, and I guess we'll just get right on into it.
What other holy book would be as honest as Paul in 1 Corinthians 15 when he said, if this event didn't happen, forget about it? I'm paraphrasing.
I don't know why that's a measure of how truthful it is. I mean, that's just Paul talking out of his ass, right? Like, I don't get why that it should be convincing to anybody. I mean, basically what Paul is saying here is that, oh, well, if this didn't happen, then there's really no point in Christianity. And I mean, I would have to agree that unless Jesus died for sins, there's no point in Christianity. But that doesn't mean that it's true. It just means that Paul believes it. So, you know, you can believe things that are not true. I just, starting right off the bat in the first 13 seconds, I don't see it getting any better than this.
Of course, the resurrection of Jesus Christ is the linchpin miracle in the Bible. Perhaps you're thinking, well, what about the incarnation? When Jesus Christ, God, became flesh, the problem with saying that's the linchpin miracle is you can't look at a baby and know that the miracle happened. You would say, well, his life testifies that he is God. I would agree to that. But the incarnation cannot really be observed, but the resurrection of Jesus Christ can, and it was.
No, it wasn't. All we have, like, as far as independent accounts of things, the only thing that we have is Paul. And all Paul says is that he had hallucinations. And then he repeats this, this like creed that he got from others that were Christians before him, saying that, oh, well, you know, first Jesus appeared to Cephas, and then he appeared to all these people, which that part could be an interpolation or a spelling error. But in any case, and he goes on this list of people that like saw the resurrected Jesus. But the point is that they saw a resurrected Jesus. So it was not like Jesus resurrecting. It was Jesus after he already resurrected. So we don't have any evidence of Jesus resurrecting, nor even being resurrected. We have evidence of most likely hallucinations that were occurring, that or people that were just mistaken, or they could have been lying about it. I mean, I don't know. I would think that lying would probably be on like the least probable out of the other solutions that I proposed. But I mean, it's definitely possible and far more probable than Jesus actually resurrecting.
Your entire life, your eternity is riding on this miracle, but we need to do some math. How do we even know about this miracle? Well, there was a book written about it. It's called the Bible, and that means you and I are relying on some eyewitnesses to be telling the truth.
Okay, so yes, there's no eyewitnesses in the Bible to Jesus's resurrection. There's just fictional accounts of Jesus's resurrection. And so, but that's not the part that I want to focus on with that here. Typically, apologists will tell you, oh, the Bible's not just one book. It's multiple books that were just put together in a collection. And he acts like the Bible was, or at least in that particular section, Sorry, we got a super chat coming in. Jason Kolasike says completely ignores the typical lifespan 2,000 years ago. No, honey, God impregnated me. Glory be!
Woo! Bear money.
Thank you there, Jason. But anyways, so in this particular section, he talks about the Bible as if it were written all at once, or that it was, all of this stuff came together sort of at one time. And he may not mean that. I may be just reading a little bit too far into it, but I do want to point out how the Old Testament scriptures existed long before Christianity started, and in fact, they were mined for information about Jesus. So you have to take that into consideration, as well as the fact that Paul was writing first in around about the 50s. He was writing between the 50s and the mid 60s. And then the Gospels were written after that, ranging from Mark in the 70s, like between 65 and 70 or so. Mark was being written. Typically, scholars would say at least after 70. But you have Mark, and then Matthew was written in the 80s. Luke was written at least after 93 AD, and then John is most likely written in the 2nd century. And then you have other books that are written in that time span as well. So, I mean, these are all like coming from at different times. And the Bible that we know now, at least what we might recognize as the Bible, wasn't actually cobbled together until about the mid 2nd century. So you have to understand that it was far on into Christian history before this Bible was actually put together.
How do we know? You'll hear this slanderous accusation when you witness on university campuses. Well, other books get people to believe a lie. There's people who have been charlatans. What about Jim Jones? Valid point, but that is why we need to dig deep into these eyewitness biblical accounts. And what we are going to see is something unique from every other myth story. Let's dive in to our eyewitness accounts to see if indeed they are something that can be trusted.
Okay, so before he gets into his evidence for the Gospels being eyewitness accounts or that they could be trusted, like I laid out before, the Gospel authorship is a bit awkward. So as far as the Gospel goes, there's really only one Gospel that can be considered somewhat pseudo-independent, and that would be Mark, because he was the first Gospel written. But more importantly, Mark's Gospel is what seeded all of the other Gospels. Matthew's Gospel copied from Mark, Luke's Gospel copied from both Matthew and Mark, and then John's Gospel used all three of those in order to generate his Gospel. But even then, I say that Mark is pseudo-independent because he's not really independent. Mark used Paul's writings in order to, generate a lot of his information about Jesus, about his theology, about what Jesus said and did. So you have to take all that into consideration when you're thinking about these as eyewitness accounts. That, for one thing, they can't be eyewitness accounts. If you are directly copying off of another person's work, you are not, one, independent, and two, an eyewitness. Eyewitnesses don't have to copy off each other in order to get the story straight. Okay? They if they're really eyewitnesses, then they should just tell their story. But Mark himself, being that he copied off of Paul, and the fact that he doesn't cite any sources also means that he's not an eyewitness. He wasn't written by an eyewitness. It wasn't dictated by an eyewitness or anything like that. Mark contains no citations of sources. The only time that they mention some other work is when they're referencing scripture as where they got their information from. And that happens a lot throughout Mark, but it's most prevalent in Matthew's Gospel. And so you really have to understand why it's ridiculous that the Gospels are eyewitness accounts. There are no sources that they mention where they get their information from. They have information in those Gospels that nobody else should be able to have. Like, nobody should be able to have. Like what happened in the Garden of Gethsemane, right? Nobody was around Jesus. Nobody knows what happened when Jesus went into his corner and prayed to himself. Nobody knows. Nobody should know, at least. So it's situations like that, or like what happened out in the desert when he was tempted by Satan or whatever, and he sat in that ring for 40 days and 40 nights or whatever in the fuck he did. Who was there to write all that shit down? Who? No. Oh, that's another thing. The disciples were illiterate peasant people. They could not afford to learn to read and write. They could speak Greek because that was the general language of the area, but there's no way that they could have went to school and learned how to write in Greek and all this other shit. So they definitely didn't write those accounts. Just keep in mind all of the problems surrounding considering the Gospels to be eyewitness accounts.
Nathan Buznitz. The written eyewitness accounts were in circulation much too early to be a myth.
I disagree with this, obviously, but if you just look at the situations that we have now in our socio-political sphere, you have this myth of tampering with the 2020 election, and people believe it, even though we can directly show them there was no tampering, there was no election fraud. People are still going to believe that there was election fraud. And it's become so normalized to believe in this myth now that, you have people, celebrities or otherwise smart people saying that there was election fraud. So I don't know what it means when you say that it just happened too early to be a myth. Like, these things were written down too early to be a myth. Maybe he'll explain. But just what I've seen in the recent past about this particular topic leads me to the conclusion that people will believe crazy shit if they want to. So it could definitely arise quick. A more academic answer would be look at cargo cults, or look at, what is that? That mythical worker, let's see. John Henry, no. Shit, I can't remember. There's been a recent one where somebody made up a guy that threw a tantrum at a printing place, and started a whole protest movement, and I can't remember what it's called right off the top of my head. That's one. The cargo cults, they formed when you could definitely say, hey, this isn't true. Tom From, John Navy, Ned Luddites. Thank you so much there, Robert. I saw, and thank you, honey, for pointing that out. Ned Luddites, yes. The Luddites, their founder was completely mythical. Ned Ludd never originally existed. But also, if you just look at religions at the time in the first century, at the time of Jesus, you have several cults out there that were built off of mythical things. And another good point here is the UFOs. UFOs developed in less time than it took the Gospels to develop in a mythical way, being that it's completely fiction. The stuff that happened in Roswell, by the 70s, it had blossomed into a full-fledged mythical story, and so in less time that it took for the Gospels to be written, there are now UFO abductions and crop circles and all this other shit and aliens found at a crash site in New Mexico. So you can't sit there and say, oh, these were written down too early to be a myth. I don't think so. Especially when you consider the fact that they pretty much made up all the information. It kind of makes it look like they were just pulling shit out of their ass. Or, well, they were pulling shit out of other people's asses and then mixing in their own shit with it. Casey said this is getting gross.
This is huge. Why? Because if they had been written much later, all that time, people could have concocted stories. But when the eyewitness accounts were written near the event, there are people who could have busted the authors. Hey!
Hey, that's what I was going to say. Hey, that's bullshit. There's no way anybody could have refuted this thing. But also, this particular point makes it sound like there weren't people that were already trying to argue against Christianity. I'll give you a good example of this. So in Mark's gospel at the very end, he has Jesus, or not really Jesus, but an angel appearing to the women at the tomb saying, oh, Jesus ain't here. Go home, bitches. And don't speak a word of this to anybody. And so they run away, right? And that's the original ending to Mark, which we may get into the longer ending to Mark and how that got tacked on in the mid-2nd century. But for right now, that's really all that you need to know. Well, in Matthew's gospel, what does he do? He invents Roman soldiers at the tomb. And this was all to stave off the whole apologetic argument that, the anti-apologetic argument, the anti-Christian argument that like the body was just stolen. Like the disciples just went in there and stole the body, because the original gospel doesn't have any Roman guards at the tomb. Matthew, upon hearing this particular argument against Christianity, was like, oh, no. There were guards at the tomb, and they were trained Roman ninjas. Okay, you couldn't get past these motherfuckers. But when the women got there, the Roman soldiers were knocked on their ass, throwing stars and spears in hand, and the stone was there. And actually in Matthew, you've got an angel that comes down and knocks and bitch slaps the stone away. And then it's like, he ain't here, bitches. And then he rises back up into heaven. The fact is, though, is that Matthew's gospel records one of the earliest arguments against Christianity and this notion that Jesus resurrected from the dead. So to say that these were just written too early for people to start to refute, I feel like there's plenty of evidence in the differences between the gospels to show us that people were already arguing against it. Just because the later Christians didn't preserve any of the anti-Christian writing doesn't mean that it didn't exist. And it's very obvious that people were saying it due to the differences that we have. So it would be actually kind of odd if there weren't some kind of anti-Christian writings that were out there that just weren't preserved by Christians. That's happened multiple times as we've seen in what does exist now.
He didn't rise from the dead. Everybody in Jerusalem knows that, but our eyewitness accounts were written close enough to the actual events. And guess what? Nobody said, you're fibbing, more details on the nearness of the accounts. A myth cannot be developed when people who can refute it are still alive. Number two, many witnesses were still alive when Paul wrote 1 Corinthians in about 80-55, give or take. Number three, many...
I'm so sorry about that. I had my thumb on the Stream Deck and I kept hitting it because, listen, when I go to edit my videos, I have my Stream Deck set up to for a bunch of edit buttons, right? And so the button that I was hitting that's actually the sponsor button is play pause. And so I was wanting to pause it after that first one, and it actually switched to the Ridge Wallet advertisement. This is not sponsored by Ridge, by the way. Just want to put that out there. All right, I'm going to replay this last little bit, and we're going to take these things like one at a time.
What? Nobody said, you're fibbing. More details on the nearness of the accounts. A myth cannot be developed when people who can refute it are still alive.
Well, I mean, this assumes that this assumes a few things. One, that there weren't people that were saying that this is horse shit. We don't know if there were or weren't people saying that it was all horse shit. We definitely know that there were at least people making arguments against the Christians by the 80s. So, I mean, we do know that, but saying that a myth cannot develop when people can still refute it, I mean, that's refuted by our current sociopolitical environment right now. We have ways of refuting election fraud, but people are still believing in it. So to suggest that a myth cannot develop when there are people to refute it, I think is just horseshit. And you can look at any of the other things that I mentioned, like the cargo cults, that was easily refutable, but people still believed it. Ned Ludd, there were people around that could have refuted that, but they didn't, and instead they believed it. And then, you know, you had the various things that are definitely fictional from the past where, you know, people could have refuted it, but you know, either they weren't, either they didn't, or people believed it even though they were they were proven wrong. So this point number one right here doesn't really make a lot of sense, and he doesn't provide any kind of citations on where he's getting this from or anything like that. If you look at actual studies on myth and how they propagate through you know, their cultures and everything like that, I feel like you would definitely find contrary evidence to what this number one point is trying to make.
Number two, many witnesses were still alive when Paul wrote 1 Corinthians in about 55, give or take. Number three.
Okay, so so for that number two right there, he's saying that there were many witnesses still alive. Basically, that's just Paul saying that many of these people are still alive, although some have died, is what he says right there. And you can't tell me who he's talking about. Like, you can't give me names. You can't give any kind of meaningful information where I would be able to like try to find any information on these people. The only time they're mentioned is vaguely in this particular part of 1 Corinthians. So, or 1 Corinthians, however you say it. This doesn't actually prove that there were actually many witnesses. It just shows that there were claims of many witnesses. But just because people believe there were a lot of witnesses doesn't mean there actually were witnesses. Like, if I were to say right now that, oh, hey, look, guys, Saturday night, Meatloaf is going to play a concert in Huntsville, Alabama. I know he's dead, hun. That's the reason why I picked him. Let's say last night there was a Meatloaf concert in Huntsville, Alabama. 500 people attended it. We all saw Meatloaf live on stage singing, "I would do anything for love, but I won't do that. No." Meatloaf is on stage singing it, right? 500 people in Huntsville, Alabama saw it. Find those 500 people. Right? I mean, you should be able to, right? I mean, it doesn't matter where you're at in the world. There are people watching right now that are probably from North Alabama. Go find those 500 people. And if you can't find those 500 people, does that mean that those 500 people don't exist? That 500 people didn't witness Meatloaf singing that he would do anything for love? That's true, honey. 500 people didn't. But my point is that at that point in time, you would not be able to find these 500 witnesses that are unnamed. Paul doesn't give us any kind of indication of where they were when they saw Jesus. So there would be no way. Like, I gave more information about Ghost Meatloaf singing his song in Huntsville, Alabama, than Paul gives in this little shitty statement in 1 Corinthians.
55, give or take. Number 3, many witnesses were still alive when Paul wrote Galatians in AD 49. And
I don't know what he's talking about here. There's Paul does not mention any witnesses. He doesn't indicate anybody is a witness. He talks about Cephas and James, one of the pillars. But those were just people that received visions of Jesus. And so they're not eyewitnesses of him resurrecting from the dead. They're just people who had hallucinations. So this point right here is just false. Like, it's, I'm not going to say that he's lying about it, but if he were to try to spin Galatians to be about eyewitnesses or witnesses in general, I would definitely say that that's disingenuous, because he knows that that's not what Paul says.
he certainly talks about Christ rising from the dead. Number 4, a myth requires 2 or more generations to pass before it can take root. And finally, number 5.
No, I don't like, where does this come off? A myth requires 2 or more generations to pass before it can take root. Where in the fuck does this come from? All it takes is the ignorance of people and not knowing like everything that happened in the first century. I mean, just think about it. If you're walking around the 70s and you have some fuck saying that like 40 years ago somebody died for your sins, I mean, how are you going to verify that? In fact, I feel like this guy gets a lot of things backwards in this entire video, but in this particular part, what I feel like he gets backwards is actually that myth can propagate faster in a time when people aren't connected, when the literacy rate is abysmal, like near nothing, at least compared to what the literacy rate is now. So, I mean, myth would be able to propagate much faster, and it would be able to take root quicker at that point in time than now. Because you think about it, right now, we have people that are spreading myths about, well, for one thing, election fraud. And then you've got other things like the anti-vax stuff. That's something new that I haven't talked about yet, instead of the election fraud stuff. The anti-vax stuff. That stuff has been around for multiple years, and it still hasn't gone away. In fact, it's actually grown since COVID. I wish we could go back to the time when we would laugh at anti-vaxxers and blame them for like diseases.
Hey, dipshit. This person just bought you a beer.
Thank you, Jason, for buying me a beer. He says straight out of hell. But I mean, you would think that we would be able to refute all these anti-vaxxers, but no, that's not the case.
More generations to pass before it can take root. And finally, number 5, the best scholarship suggests the Synoptic Gospels were written within 30 years of Calvary.
That's the most conservative date, because if you figure that Jesus was supposedly crucified in the early 30s, with the earliest date for like Mark's gospel being 65, that's relatively within that 30-year margin that he's talking about. But in a closer approximation to it would be 40 years, right around 40 years plus or minus some years. Because I mean, we don't have exact dates for any of this, but also I don't know what this has to do with being able to trust Christianity. I mean, myths can definitely develop in shorter amounts of time. Even by his conservative estimate here, the UFO scene, like the UFO abduction people, that whole community popped up in 20 years. I mean, come on. How can you seriously think that myths and false information can't take root before the 30-year mark right here, which is an incorrect number, but still, even using his number, it's ridiculous.
All that to say, the people who wrote these accounts claim to have seen them.
Big whoop-de-fucking-do. I really don't care if they claim to have seen anything. I can claim to see a big dick dinosaur flying in the sky, but that doesn't mean that one exists.
Furthermore, the details that are given are so rich. Anytime somebody makes up a myth, you see, this guy kind of, he died and then he wasn't dead anymore. And they can be extremely vague. Why? Because you can't get...
You know, honey, I can't think of a more vague story than fucking Robin Hood or King Arthur. Can you think of a more vague story? Oh, well, there's this, was he a fox? He might have been a fox. He was living in the woods. And he went and fought in the Crusades, and then he got sent back for some fucking reason, and he come back and he was really pissed off at the law, and so he fucked around with the law a little bit, and then he married a princess. That's Robin Hood. Is that really an accurate representation of Robin Hood? I just did exactly what he did to the Gospels here. Actually, I feel like I gave more information. But my point stands is that it's ridiculous to say that fictional stories are vague. Like, who's gonna pick up a fiction like narrative, like a novel or something like that, and it's like 3 pages long and it's the vaguest story that you've ever heard? Nobody's gonna read that book. In fact, fictional stories often have vastly more details, vastly more details than like historical accounts of things. Like, you're not going to know how many buttons were on, some general's shirt when he ordered the attack on bumfuck nowhere, right? But in a fictional story, you could talk about all 72 of his buttons quivered with the anxious anxiety of a terrorized duck or something like that. It's a good thing I don't write fiction. Anyways, fictional stories often have vastly more details than like historical accounts. Listen, okay, I never claimed to be a good fiction writer, okay? Sorry, my phone's yelling at me because my sugar's high. I looked cross at some food earlier and my blood sugar was like, "God, pump it up, boys."
It busted, but when you've got a lot of details, that tells the reader, either they are a really intricate liar or this really happened, from Nathan Booz.
Okay, so first off, he's either a liar or they were telling the truth. Like, I've never heard such a blatant false dichotomy. I mean, seriously, because it's not that they were lying. They could have truly believed that these are things that happened to Jesus. Just because, but just because they believe this happened to Jesus doesn't mean that it's actually true. And just because they can write a nice, pretty story around these events doesn't mean that it's false. So I feel like this is an argument that doesn't help either case, either that Jesus wasn't real, or that Jesus was real, or his crucifixion happened or didn't happen. Like, I don't think that really helps us out in either case.
Znitz, first century fiction was not written in today's style of realistic narrative. There is no mistaking ancient myth with real history because ancient fiction never wasted time on unnecessary details that didn't drive the plot or promote a character's development.
Huh? How long is the Iliad? Yeah, the Iliad's kind of long. But so going back to this slide right here, I'm wondering, can anybody name a detail in the Gospels that doesn't drive the plot or promote a character's development? Like, what on earth in the Bible is in there that doesn't do one of those things? And even if it doesn't do one of those things, it could just be there for literary color, right? Like, it could just be there in order to make the story better. So I don't see how this point at all makes any kind of difference as far as whether or not the story's true.
Or promote a character's development. Go ahead and read any one of the mythological accounts of some sort of divine human being, and they do not have the specificity of the resurrection of Jesus Christ.
How is it specific? Like, the resurrection of Jesus? How is that shit specific at all? Like, it's really not specific. Let me actually, you know what I can do is I can bring up let's see, Mark 16. Jesus is risen. What? Oh. That's right, honey. They weren't talking about what kind of shoes he was wearing. Therefore it's got to be fiction, right? Or it's got to be whatever. Hold on. I can't talk and try to do a complex thing at the same time. Let's see. Bible. Oh shit, that name's already in use. Apparently I already have a window capture that just says Bible. Oh no, I think that's just a scene. Yeah, that's a scene. So Bible verse. Okay, let me get this. 16. There we go. Okay, so Jesus has risen. When the Sabbath was over, Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of Jesus, and Salome brought spices that they might go to anoint Jesus' body. Very early on the first day of the week, just after sunrise, they were on their way to the tomb, and they asked each other, who will roll away the stone away from the entrance of the tomb? But when they looked up, they saw the stone, which was very large, had been rolled away. As they entered the tomb, they saw a young man dressed in a white robe sitting on the right side, and they were alarmed. Don't be alarmed! Shit, he called him out beforehand. He said, you are looking for Jesus the Nazarene who was crucified. He has risen. He is not here. See the place where they laid him. Go tell his disciples that he's going ahead of you to Galilee. Trembling and bewildered, the women went out and fled from the tomb. They said nothing to anyone because they were afraid. I don't see this as having a lot of like descriptive stuff in it. He acts like it's very descriptive, but I mean, I don't think that we really get all that descriptive until, let's see, maybe John's account. Hold on. Let's see. Let's see, that's John chapter 20. Let's see, the empty tomb. It gets a little bit more elaborate as John goes. So, I mean, typically the earliest source is going to be your most the one that's closest to if the events actually happened. That's going to be your best account for that. But as you see, as we get into the 2nd century with John, we have like an elaborate story being told. Now, using his criteria, that would mean that John's gospel is actually the more accurate one compared to Mark's gospel, who's a lot more vague. But in reality, what we have is by the 2nd century, the myth of Jesus and his resurrection being fully fleshed out, having a lot of different supporting details and not facts, but supporting detailed information and stuff. So it's totally it's totally opposite as to what he's saying here.
In 4 accounts, that should.
We got Jason Kolosik, who says the Iliad wasn't promoting a religion. True, the Iliad wasn't promoting a religion, but as far as fictional things, I would say that the Iliad, the Odyssey, those were realistic narratives for the time. And you also have other realistic narratives being written. The Isis and Osiris cult, they were a mystery cult, and the public-facing myths were the very celestial versions of these gods. The public-facing myths were very earthly, very realistic narrative kind of stories about their gods. The internal secret teachings is that they were all only ever celestial. So, you do have realistic narratives being written about several things in the 1st century and prior to that. So to suggest that these realistic narratives just didn't happen whatsoever is disingenuous.
Give you confidence. This is too detailed from individuals who wrote.
I've come to drink beer and shit on people. Luckily, I have enough beer.
Hoorah! Jester Lord of Fools says, wait, this does seem like a pretty interesting detail. The angel here sounds completely humanoid. I don't recall that in the OT. That's true. The angels that appear at the tomb are humanoid glowing figures. And they actually get that from the Book of Daniel, because an angel visits Daniel when he's in the lion's den, and the way that the angel is described there is the exact same way that they describe the angel in the New Testament, or the angels in the New Testament at the discovery of the empty tomb. So that's how we know that Daniel was actually the source material for that particular part of the resurrection of Jesus.
The accounts too near the event for it to be a myth. More from Dr. Booznitz. Mark 4:38, he cites Jesus himself was in the stern asleep on the cushion, and they woke him and said to him, "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?"
This is a really interesting thing that he brings up here. And it's interesting because if you read Randall Helm's Gospel Fictions, he actually painstakingly goes through all of the Gospels and points out all of the connections between the Gospels and the Old Testament. This particular story right here is about Jesus calming the seas, right? So Jesus and the disciples are on the boat. There's a sea, which doesn't make a lot of fucking sense because the sea that they're on is really just a big lake. Right. Think the fucking Ozarks or something like that. He calms the sea. And the reason why this is worked in there is because of the Book of Jonah. You see, Jonah is seen as a prefigure to Jesus Christ. In fact, Matthew actually says that there will be no sign that Jesus is the Messiah other than the sign of Jonah. The sign of Jonah is, him being trapped in a whale for 3 days. Jesus also likewise is dead for 3 days. And Matthew explicitly makes that connection. Well, Mark right here is using the Book of Jonah in order to generate this stilling of the seas, or the calming of the seas in this storm. And the teacher, do you not care that we are perishing, is linguistically similar, and even directly lifting some of the phrases from the Book of Jonah. And in the Book of Jonah, what you have is Jonah calling out to God, saying, "Oh, do you not care that we are about to drown?" and all this other stuff. And so God stills the seas. And the disciples here are like the fishermen, right? And so in this particular section right here, I'm guessing that he's going to harp on some detail, and he's about to do that. My point in bringing up the Jonah thing, though, is the fact that it was mined from Jonah, and it was not at all like a historical event as far as we can tell. If you have to mine information from a book from the Old Testament in order to tell the story of something in the New Testament, then more than likely that event didn't actually happen.
In the stern on a cushion. Why the detail? Oh yeah, because they were there.
This is just an assumption here. It's speculation. You can't know that they were there. Also, this particular statement seems to suggest that the disciples, or some of the disciples at least, wrote or at least informed the Gospels, which we don't have any evidence of that happening. But this right here could just be the author adding in some detail to explain the scene. I mean, when you're writing fiction, you're looking to paint a scene in the reader's mind. So my guess is that they wanted to do that, is painting a scene for the reader to envision. And I mean, who would want to sleep like on a hard, I guess, floor of a boat? Like, I don't think that anybody would. I think that most of the time people would want to be sleeping on a cushion, or they would have at least some kind of padding there to sleep on. I really don't think Jesus would just be passed out on the, I don't think on a ship, on the deck of the ship. I think that he would be sleeping on something. So this isn't really an extra detail that doesn't need to be there.
And they knew the details. Verse number 2, that is an example, is John 21:8. But the other disciples came in the little boat, for they were not far from the land, but about 100 yards away, dragging the net full of fish. Or consider John 21:11. Simon Peter went up and drew the net to land full of large fish, 153. And although there were so many, the net was not torn. Who would know that there were 153 fish? Oh yeah, an eyewitness who is telling the truth. But there is more.
Why is that your direct go-to thing? Why can't this just be something that they made up? They could have just pulled a number out of their ass. Do you really expect that? With John being written in the 2nd century, do you really expect whoever wrote John to know that 153 fish were caught on that particular fishing expedition? Like, nobody's going to sit there and count the fish out that they caught in a net. Okay? So this doesn't scream, oh, they are eyewitnesses, they knew it had to be there. It screams, I pulled this number out of my ass. We caught a shit ton of fish that day. And also, I would think that this would just drive, with the point that there were so many fish in the net and the net was not torn. This is advancing some kind of plot point or message or character development. So this matches the very thing that he says is an inconsequential detail, right? Or it's matching what he said before about how this isn't this is an inconsequential detail. So
reliability to the eyewitness accounts. The written eyewitness accounts are too self-debasing and counterproductive to be a myth.
Okay, this is the criterion of embarrassment, and it really doesn't work for any kind of thing that you're trying to prove. For one thing, there's just as much reason to make shit up like this than there is for it to be true. Also, the Gospels are notorious for painting the disciples as being idiots. And this is because the disciples are representative of the tribes of Israel, or the Israelite people. The Israelite people are dumb fucks in the Gospels, okay? They're dumb fucks in the disciples, and they're dumb fucks for putting Jesus on the cross, or at least forcing Pilate to put Jesus on the cross. So it would actually be weird if they weren't continuously painted as being dumb fucks. All throughout the Old Testament, you have Jesus telling the Israelite people, y'all are dumb fucks. That's why I hate you. But you're also my chosen people. So, I mean, this is not any kind of good evidence that the Gospels are true or they're relaying accurate history. It would actually be unexpected if the Gospels didn't paint the Israelite people as being dumb fucks.
Imagine you desired to be rich and famous and to have a lot of followers, and you were willing to write down details of your experiences following a poor Nazarene around Israel. Would you describe yourself as a buffoon?
A buffoon. And then he's got that disappointed dad look on his face. It amazes me that a Christian would be like, why would I want to represent myself as a dumbass? When in fact, that is like one of the central messages to Christianity, that humanity is a dumbass. Humanity needs a savior. Like, I feel like the message of Christianity would be lost on people if Christianity wasn't claiming like, hey, we're all dumb fucks. We all do dumb shit all the time, but that's why we need a savior. Like, is that not like kind of an integral part of Christianity? The painting humanity as this fallen, broken, and trying to think of a different word here. A fallen, broken, and just ignorant group of organisms that need somebody to save them. Like, I feel like everything that I've seen from Christian apologists, that's the message that I get, that we need saving. I posted up a clip from my discussion with Ben Shetler. He's like, oh, you just don't have the humility to admit that you deserve hell. I feel like if it weren't for Christianity or the Bible, the Gospels, shitting on humanity or the Israelites in general, I really don't think that it would have a message that would make you believe in it. I feel like that's an integral part of it.
And yet, that is exactly what we read all throughout the New Testament. Authors of eyewitness events made themselves look foolish because they had actually behaved foolishly. Why would anybody who is desiring to trick people or to have them send in their tithes so that they can receive some sort of tchotchke so that they could fly around on a private jet? Okay, I'm getting my centuries confused, but you get the point. A charlatan tries to make himself look wonderful. The eyewitness accounts you read in the New Testament, they didn't look so stellar.
Well, that's because they weren't lying about it. And also, like, the prosperity gospel dipshits that exist now are totally different from the original Christians that wrote the shit down, invented the myths and all that other stuff. I don't think that they were trying to lie to people to gain like power, prestige, or money or anything like that. I think that they were writing down things that they truly believed in. But as sincere as those beliefs are, I don't think that those beliefs are representative of reality, because you can believe in things that aren't real. And so that has no effect on whether or not Christianity is true. The fact that people wrote down what they believed happened. It's not what actually happened. It's just what they believe to have happened. So suggesting that it's either they're liars and con man versus it's truth is yet another false dichotomy.
8 examples of this. Number one, John
Oh, fuck. 8 examples?
never mentioning his own name anywhere in his gospel, instead referring to himself as the disciple whom Jesus loved.
Okay, before he moves on to the next one, this one is actually false. This is not what the scholarship says, and he's actually on the fringe of scholarship at this point. He's been on the fringe of it this entire video, but this one especially, because scholars has actually identified Lazarus in John's gospel as being the disciple whom Jesus loved. And that at the end of the gospel is not the person that wrote it, but the source of the information. So the person that wrote the Bible got the information from Lazarus, the disciple whom Jesus loved. So this is just fucking wrong on all fronts right here.
Trying to get rich, you don't do that. Number two, Peter's courtyard failure at Jesus' trial, where he denied knowing Jesus 3 times.
3 is a magical number. Peter denying Jesus 3 times is a way to say that, oh, you know, people will deny, you know, knowing Jesus and all that. People will deny knowing Jesus and everything like that, but, you know, in the end, you're consumed by the knowledge of Jesus. I feel like that's the ultimate message for that. Saying that he denies him 3 times, you know, that's just that's significant. 3 is a significant number, especially when you're talking about like God.
Number 3, the frequent bickering and pettiness among Jesus' closest disciples.
Again, representative of the Israelite people, them bickering amongst themselves, fighting amongst themselves. You know, in this particular instance, the thing that I'm thinking about is fighting about who's the best disciple and all this other stuff, and or who's the one that adheres to it the most. And like that kind of pride and that kind of stuff is exactly what the Old Testament God hated, and that's, in this situation, is also what Jesus hates.
They look like the Stooges. Number 4, Jesus never taking a side on political issues.
Well, I would not expect Jesus to take sides on political issues because, and I guess he's talking about like paying taxes maybe and stuff like that. But in any case, you know, in the New Testament, there was this idea of a heaven or this kingdom that comes after this life. So Jesus wasn't focused on whatever in the fuck was happening like in the real world or anything like that as far as the gospels go. He was only concerned with his eternal kingdom that it only exists after this life. So it makes total sense that he wouldn't be concerned with like petty political squabbles. Also, Jesus being God himself, he's like, I make the rules, bitches. I don't know why y'all are even fretting about this shit.
5, Jesus asking the Father that he might be spared the cup of his suffering.
So this right here is kind of changed. This happens in the Garden of Gethsemane, where Jesus is pleading.
That's KC's money.
Oh shit. My fucking camera went off. Hold on.
Drink up, motherfucker. It's not getting any better.
That's fucking right. It's not getting any better. Hold on. Let's see. Hopefully that worked. Okay, hold on. All right, here we are. Okay. So this right here happens in the Garden of Gethsemane, where Jesus is pleading with his with God, and I do believe that this is actually you know, it's changed. Maybe let's see, Bible verse, Mark, Garden of Gethsemane. Mark 14:32 through 32 through 42. All right, so let me get over here. All right, Gethsemane. Father, he says, everything is possible for you. Take this cup from me, yet not what I will, but you will. All right, so in Mark, Jesus is asking God to take this cup of suffering from him. And then let's see. Matthew's garden
You know,
is 26.
donating this much only makes me drink more.
Fuck yeah, it does. Let's see. 26. Last Supper, Gethsemane. Going a little farther, he fell on his face. My Father's impossible. May this cup be taken from me. Okay, so it's the same in Matthew. Let's see what Luke says. Luke 22.
Hey, this person just bought an express ticket to hell.
Fuck yeah, Brian. I'm gonna get to all your super chats just in a second. We got Luke 22. Last Supper, rested. What? Jesus prays on the Mount of Olives. Okay, so this is interesting. In Luke's gospel, he doesn't do this in the Garden of Gethsemane. He does this on the Mount of Olives, which is actually a bit closer to what the what Scripture says, because Scripture describes the Mount of Olives, and that's where a lot of things happen. So that's weird because Luke's gospel has it happening at the Mount of Olives. That's a big difference. There's a garden and Mount of Olives. I mean, I feel like those are two very different things. Agony in the garden. Wait, hold on. John 18. Let's see what John 18 says. Jesus arrested. That would be there was a garden. Pirdon Valley on the other side. There was a garden. Wait, maybe Jesus 17? Hold on. It seems like John has removed this part altogether. See, Jesus prays for all believers. Jesus arrested. This is him going to the garden. And then immediately Judas, who betrayed him. Judas came to the garden. Jesus went out and says, who is it you want? Yeah, so it seems like John doesn't even have the Gethsemane story. It's kind of interesting. Let's see. Jester says technical issues with GE, and Elizabeth mentioned how I'm frozen. Thank you guys for notifying me. Daniel M says the face that you made during the freezes need to go into the emojis. And then Jonathan Hanchek says, I personally miss hearing the Peanut Gallery correct John on all the BS, and please sing technical problems with GE. Technical problems with GE! So, all right. So this particular part isn't attested in the Book of John. And the other Gospels have taken place in different locations. But the fact is that it showcases how Jesus accepts the suffering. He, you know, regardless of whether or not he asks for God to take the cup from him, it's to emphasize the fact that Jesus made the conscious decision to go through this suffering for people. So this is definitely advancing a plot point.
Tricky detail number 6, Jesus asking the Father why he had forsaken him. 7.
I mean, that is kind of weird. Like, see, that's one of the things that is kind of weird in Mark's gospel. It's like, you know, why, God, why have you forsaken me? But that's also only occurring in one of the gospels. Like, Mark is the only gospel that has him saying that, and it doesn't make sense for him to say that. So I don't see why that is on his point here of these uncomfortable things. There's a perfectly reasonable explanation for why Jesus would have said that. You know, Mark's gospel is an adoptionist gospel. You know, while Jesus, you know, the archangel that was the Messiah inhabiting that body, I think at that point, it was just him being confused about all this. Maybe. I mean, I don't know. But the fact is that was meant to drive a story point, a plot point. Jesus being executed as a common criminal. I mean, how else was he supposed to be executed by the Romans in the first century? How else is he expecting Jesus to be handled?
Jesus being executed as a common criminal. And finally, an appeal to a woman's testimony, which in those days was not admissible in court.
So the fuck what? Like, I don't understand why this particular point is ever brought up. For one thing, this is not a court. For another thing, it's not that women's testimonies weren't admissible in court. In fact, they were admissible in court. It was just unseemly for a woman to appear in court. There's a big difference there. Women often gave testimonies either directly or through some kind of proxy, and we have evidence of this in like Josephus and other first century historians. So you can't just sit there and tell me that a woman's testimony wasn't admissible in court when they definitely were.
All of these details would not be included if it were a lie.
See, that's just speculation right there. I think that all of these details and more, which there are more details, but I think all of these details would be included even if they were lying. What this amounts to is that all of the things that he has brought up are pretty neutral.
May the power of Christ compel you to get the fuck out of here.
Fuck. Thank you, Jane, for scaring the shit out of me. I think that if somebody was just making shit up, they would have made this shit up too. So all of these arguments and pieces of evidence are really neutral as to whether or not it proves that the Gospels are historical or are relaying accurate information. We got Jane Pusecker who says, which verse are you trying to help you find it, and what chapter in John is it supposed to be in, and can check to see if one of my Bibles has the verse. I think that was, what was that? That was back here. Oh, well, I think we were looking at this one. The number 5 might be spared his cup of his suffering and everything like that. I think that's the one that I was talking about, but we found it in John. Thank you, though, Jane. I really appreciate you doing that for me.
Details would not be included if it were a lie.
Okay, that's it. And then he's got this really weird, like, little skit.
I'll be needing to see some identification, young man.
Why?
Because you, my friend, are a lawbreaker.
No, I'm not.
You are, according to this video from Ray Comfort.
Oh shit, Ray fucking Comfort. Let's see if we can make him vomit again.
Production. I need the clips on time.
911, what's your emergency?
We met about
Yeah, he asked me to
this.
become a gospel partner, and he took my credit card.
I swear to Christ, this guy looks like one of my best friends growing up. Oh man, I had some fun times with Mitchell, but I mean, ultimately he was a dipshit. I don't know if y'all really know like anybody that you went to school with that was like caught having sex in a chorus room, but that was my friend Mitchell, and this guy looks exactly like that. Oh man. Anyways, that's gonna be it for their video tonight. He just had that one little skit right there afterwards. I'm done with my crack and cream soda. But all in all, I don't think that Todd's video here was all that impressive or persuasive, and I didn't really see anything that should convince an atheist that Christianity is true. Everything that he mentioned has like a neutral effect on the question of whether or not Christianity is true or Christianity is real, as he would put it. And there was no real good argument that was given as to why any of that should convince an atheist to either become a Christian or to consider Christianity to be historical. So ultimately what it boils down to is that Todd and Wretched, that particular organization, really heavily relies on the fringes of information concerning the Gospels in order to convince people that are already convinced of the position. So whenever they try to say, oh, hey, here's how you convince an atheist or somebody that doesn't believe, they still are giving these really shitty arguments that only believers will eat up. Only people that already believe the story you sold them are gonna believe it. And I mean, I don't mean that as necessarily a knock against people that believe in Christianity, but as far as like something that should convince somebody that doesn't already believe, I feel like everything that was mentioned here is just not going to be convincing enough. What we want is actual evidence, not just speculation about some details or whatnot that was in a story. That is not evidence. That's just pulling shit out of your ass and acting like it's, a gold brick instead of a brick of shit. So, anyways, it's been awesome hanging out with everybody on this Friday night. If you will, please leave me a comment down below with what you thought about Todd's video here. I'd really love to hear what you guys think about the points that he brought up. Do you think that he had good points, or do you think that he was rather shitty? Let me know in the comments below what you thought. And while you're down there, why don't you smash that like button, because everybody wants to smash the like button. If you smash the dislike button, I won't know, so go right on ahead, I guess. It has no effect. Anyways, after you're done smashing like or dislike, be sure to subscribe. And we got great stuff coming down the pipe. And I guess I will see you heathens later. Don't forget to stand up and use your voice. Bye, heathens. But don't go, because I do have the Skeptic Mafia comments, and normally they have a lot of great stuff. Today they had a little bit less time than I envisioned them to have. But, they were still able to get a good number of comments in. So thank you, Skeptic Mafia, for participating.
Y'all know what? Anytime is a good time for a beer.
Ego FTCP says, awesome video. Thank you so much there, Ego. I'll definitely ponder that Atheist Republic thing. And like I said, it's not that I've never done like videos like that before. It's just that I'll need to look a bit more into it. That's all. So anyways, let's head on over to the Skeptic Mafia.
I've come to drink beer and shit on people. Luckily, I have enough beer.
It's fucking right. I have enough beer. I actually, I do, because I've actually got, beer in my fridge right behind me that y'all can't see. It's full up on beer. I ran out of Kraken, but I also don't want to get up right now to go and get me more beer. I'll probably get some on my way down. We got Who's Your Buddy, who says the worst part about Todd's videos is he always talks to us like we're all a-holes. He has about as much charm as sandpaper toilet paper. Sandpaper toilet paper. Yeah, he does, doesn't he? So Todd always kind of strikes me as a sort of a used car salesman. It's like, yeah, this guy right here can hold 12 disciples in its ass. It's like, Jesus Christ, Todd, get off Pornhub. All right. Going into the Skeptic Mafia, if you guys don't know, the Skeptic Mafia are the memberships here on the Godless Engineer channel. They help us donate to charity. The thing that we're being shitty about this month is the Betty White Challenge, where we're going to be donating to some kind of pet or humane society. We're doing the American Humane is where we're going at. Now, in order for us to donate to a charity, we normally do some independent...
What are you doing? I blew my load.
In order for us to donate to a charity, we normally have to go on like Charity Navigator or some kind of third-party charity charity analyzer kind of website, and we look at their publicly available spending stats and everything like that, and we try to invest our money or give our money to groups that spend more of their money on like services provided to people, or provided to, in this case, animals. And that's what we've got. You can look at American Humane on Charity Navigator, and you will see that while they may, pay their CEO a lot, they still spend a bulk of their money, a good portion of their money, on actual services rendered. So we normally like to support those kinds of charities. Like Quentin Van Booven saying, I realize I haven't sent much tonight, so shut up and take my money. Make sure this only helps the kitties, no doggos, with my money. Well, I will definitely have to tally up all of those types of messages, and I'll see if I can do that with American Humane. But thank you there, Quentin. I appreciate you, man. All right, so the Skeptic Mafia gets to view the video and leave a comment before the live stream every single Friday night. They also get a free podcast that they get to watch and listen to. It's just mainly me and KC ranting about certain political videos and political topics that have come up in the past week or so. And we actually recently put out a new one where John Voight violates the spirit of Lincoln. So it's people that watch it like it. So if you just want more of KC or more of me, then definitely become a Skeptic Mafia member. A portion of the Mafia memberships go to helping support our charitable efforts. So definitely consider that. You also get emojis, like everybody in the side chat using emojis and everything like that. They also are helping support charity. So Daniel M starting off tonight. Daniel M says, didn't watch the video this time. I have an idea for a charity, though. One of these times we should donate to a veterans organization. A friend of mine from work has a stepson in the Army, and over Christmas he suffered around 9 mini strokes. Now he's in danger of getting discharged with compensation for his disability, or without compensation for his disability. This kind of thing happens to veterans who served all the time. Places like the VAC, Veterans Assistance Commission, and DAV, Disabled American Veterans, and many others help to fight against that sort of thing and make sure that those who served get what they are entitled to for defending our country. Perhaps you should join the Skeptic Mafia and help out too. You get to play with what peen, whale peen, while Casey says, "What the fuck? Hangout? Is that tomorrow? Join and find out." Thank you for bringing that up, Daniel. Yes, tomorrow, we should be having a Skeptic Mafia hangout, probably around the 4 p.m. time frame. I know that Zoomy over there on was it NASA Bunker 33? I don't know if you guys are streaming on that channel right now, but Zoomy, if you want to, since you're a mod, you can put the NASA Bunker channel in the chat right now. And they usually stream at about 8:30 Central Time, I believe. But they'll do it then, so I definitely want to do it way before then. So we'll probably go at about 4 p.m. Central Standard, or I don't know if it's Standard Central Time. 9:30 p.m. Eastern, 8:30 p.m. Central for the NASA Bunker show. So Zoomy, you can go ahead and put your link in there. Yep, there they go. All right, thank you so much, Daniel. I hope to see you tomorrow in the hangout. We got I Heart Dogs who says myths take multiple generations to form. I have 2 words for you: Elvis Presley. How long after his death and funeral was he seen alive again? Google that, you wretched man. And that shameless e-begging at the end, truly wretched. Truly wretched. And we got Drew's book reviews and other bookish things. Well, came back to edit my comment, but it looks like it disappeared. So leaving another one, hoping it stays unless YouTube is being weird. YouTube has seemed to have done that a few times to other people too. So it's definitely not just you there, Drew. I'm so sorry that it got lost. We're definitely not, we're definitely not doing anything, which, checking out the held for review. See, there's nothing in held for review. So everything is here, that needs to be here. So anyways, anyway, I decided to not watch the video beforehand today and just want to say it's easy to persuade an atheist. Christianity is real, is easy. Provide evidence. Yep. On an unrelated topic, you following the Freedom Convoy protests here in Canada, I know from what I understand, a lot of cross-border trucks are involved. I am still on the fence about it personally. That is about the protest itself, not about what they are protesting. Anyway, heathens, until next time, keep on reading. Well, I feel I'm fine with them protesting. And I mean, I'm even, listen, nobody in the United States, or I don't know about Canada. I can't really speak about Canada, but at least here in the United States, nobody is necessarily forcing anybody to get vaccines. There are companies that are mandating that people get vaccines, but considering the whole Hobby Lobby thing, where in the Supreme Court it was determined that private businesses can make those kind of decisions, I feel like people just have to live with the America that they've built, because with that whole Hobby Lobby decision and the fact that these people think that corporations are people themselves that can make those kinds of decisions, I think they just kind of need to suck it up and either quit their job or get vaccinated. It's really either one. They said the exact same thing when it came down to birth control with the Hobby Lobby. So I really don't feel bad for anybody that's quit their job or lost their job over not being vaccinated. But at the same time, I feel like people are not necessarily being forced to. Now, as far as like the federal government goes, the federal government is requiring that people get vaccinated in certain situations. So, but it's all about the private sector, like private businesses and everything like that. They can make their own decisions. Anyways, Jonathan Handcheck says this is the test and only a test to see if anything I say will make it on the comments this time. Just so KC knows she's the most important person and does the most work by reading us the Bible and making sure that GE knows what it actually says, not something he just made up. Hey, me making shit up is actually a lot more entertaining than what the Bible actually is. KC is amazing at reading the Bible and makes it enjoyable, but I mean, I just try to spice shit up. And I can't, I need a drink. Hold on one second. Okay, y'all know how I am about the Bud Light seltzers, right? The fact that they do these like seasonal or random like kind of flavors is something that's always going to interest me. Right now, I've got Bud Light Seltzer Sour Watermelon. This is Bud Light Seltzer Sour Watermelon. It's not bad. Very fruity and sour at the same time, but I like that. Anyways, thank you, Jonathan, for your comment. And we got Michael W. Roble, who says, that was a masterful display of apologetics there. I don't think Todd spewed a single sentence that didn't have at least one falsehood in it, including that imbecilic crap about what makes a myth. Everything he said was wrong one way or another. When the main theme of your religion is horrifically sacrificing your own child to save yourself, convincing your followers you did it for them, then making them eat its flesh and drink its blood to implicate them in the blood sacrifice, calling your show Wretched is a good fit. Just saying. Oh shit, I didn't read all. Oh, I didn't even see the okay, my bad there, Jonathan. Here you go. Without John's inspiration, I don't think any of us would be here in such a loving community, especially on the day of my birth. Yes, happy birthday to me! If you want, you could sing about it, but no, you could go right ahead. Okay. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to Jonathan. Happy birthday to you. One day I may learn to play the ukulele. I just need to find a decent tutorial that starts at the beginning. And remember, if you haven't already, go fondle the like button, click the subscribe, ring the bell notification, and for more awesome content, follow the man talking on the screen right now. GE is the best. Thank you there, Jonathan. Okay, I read Michael's. Thank you so much, Michael, for your comment. Appreciate you. And then we got Command Cyborg saying, hello, world. Zero. Oh no, boys and girls. It's this Wretched guy. Well, get mad just by how smugly and condescendingly he talks. I mean, he just reminds me of a used car salesman. I don't know. One, how about a more honest holy book being any one that's not, wrong? Not that many of those out there, I guess. If the resurrection of Jesus is the linchpin of Christianity or the Bible, you're on kind of thin ice there, buddy. The only writer of that book to claim to be an eyewitness is Saul/Paul. He never said that he saw the resurrection. That's a good point. Another science denier debunked by the text surrounding their citation. Well, checkmate then. I have 86% of the video left. I guess it won't have any good examples of anything. I'll go through the rest of it, fearing my mental safety, and say something more about it, more about one of the worst points or something. Where's my liquid patience and my facepalm protection? There we go. Calvary? What is this? Google. So, according to Wikipedia, it's a word for Golgotha. That's a place. Okay, so like 30 years after the place. What are you smoking, Todd? Well, Golgotha is supposedly where Jesus was crucified at. So when he says Calvary, he means Jesus's death or his death on the cross. The time of crucifixion. Oh yeah, you mean in the same way after Twin Towers or such, and corroborated by Merriam-Webster, an open air representation of the crucifixion of Jesus. Yeah, that would have been the first one of those. Today I learned. It's more like one of them gospels written in that time frame, and it actually doesn't have a risen Jesus in it, just someone telling someone he is. Well, as I had guessed, whale dick. What? That shameless plug at the end? Why would anyone send their money to a highway robber? So I don't know. Smash all the buttons, ring-a-ling dong. That's all, folks. Thank you and good night. Transmission terminated. SN Balmung says the idea that 20 years is somehow not enough time for a myth to grow is utterly laughable, especially considering how quickly the lies about the 2020 US presidential election grew and took hold. The claim that a man named Yeshua was crucified by the Romans is such a mundane claim that it could be right even by accident. Yet we can't be sure of even that little. All 40 or so gospels about Jesus were written anonymously and at least decades after any potential facts. No one even claims to be an eyewitness. The 4 that were chosen to be included in the Bible were chosen not because they can be shown to be more accurate, but simply because they grew more popular. The Jesus character in the Bible is a fictional character. That doesn't change, even if there's a real person at the center of the story somehow. That's true. I agree with you there, SN Balmung. Next, we've got Suzumi. May who has drown out the Christians in her fiery gaze. But nah, I kid. And I don't blame you if you can't read that. You knew it. You knew it, Zimmy. You knew I couldn't say that shit. I love watching you try, though. In any case, what people like this keep forgetting is that they're supposing that what they're supposing is a false dichotomy. Either that or they don't care that they're doing it. There are more options in Christianity and atheism. Plus, the Bible is true because the Bible said the Bible is true because the Bible said the Bible is true is not a fucking argument. Anyway, time for some ASCII. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? Because I'm sick and tired of getting left out of these conversations. Seriously, wish a Christian would talk to a pagan at least once to try and get their opinion. Anyway, if you like this kind of content, go ahead and don't be afraid to give that like button a big, wet, sloppy kiss. Just right on the phone. Kiss it like you'd kiss a mafia boss's ring. Mafia boss's ring. Fucking my dyslexia is turned up to 11 right now because of this alcohol. Don't lick your phones though. That's not sanitary. Delicately and politely. How else are we going to protect ourselves from human malware? Ah, fuck it. Just lick your whole goddamn phone. Do it. Oh, and smash that subscribe button, ding that bell, join the Skeptic Mafia. Do it now. Or else, John here will sing again. Yeah, so blessed be y'all. Much love, moi. And then Zumi exited stage right. Thank you so much, there, Zumi. And then last few here, we've got Jonathan Nickel. Jonathan Nickel says, if there is one thing Todd Friel and I can agree upon, it is that his channel / program deserves to be called Wretched. That word describes him perfectly. I agree. Let's see. Does he think that atheists don't know and have not read the Bible? He talks of eyewitnesses but can't present any. He describes university campuses as anti-Christian because to the fundamentalist mind, education is the enemy. Also, quoting Bible verses at me proves nothing. There are examples of this wouldn't have happened. The story was a myth. Who says? Also, if the Bible writers believe that perhaps they could add aspects to the story to convince people who believe such things that their claims were true. As an atheist, I can assure you that the only thing Friel demonstrated to me was that he has drunk the Kool-Aid. I saw no demonstrable evidence, just claims about an ancient fable. Him thinking that describing a story that many atheists have already read and discarded would somehow convince them that it is a true story tells me that he hasn't spoken to many atheists. Yeah, I mean, at least I don't think that he's necessarily trying to represent atheists accurately. I think that he probably he maybe has talked to some atheists, considering how big his channel is and everything like that, and how public of I guess of a figure he is. He's probably talked to some, but he definitely hasn't made any kind of attempts to actually understand the atheist position. And I think that's a lot of
2 Timothy, what the fuck ever, shut the fuck up.
I think that is the position of a lot of apologists right now, is that they just don't care to try to actually understand the counter position. They just make up whatever they think the counter position is in their head, and then they argue against that. Quentin Van Boven sent a super chat saying, I forgot to comment, so will you do a generic shill for me, GE? Also, remember to index at 1 or you will burn in hell. Okay, so generic shill. If you guys don't know, but we have tiers here for the memberships for the Skeptic Mafia. You can become a shill yourself at the lowest setting, and you can get the emojis in the side chat. And then for getting the podcast and being able to take part in the hangouts that we do at least nearly every month, you can be at the mafioso level, and then there's also other things that happen at the other levels. So just consider becoming a member, because you'll help us do some shitty shit like donate to charities, and you'll keep me in beer. All right. Trickster says this guy knows all about digging deep, as he is really digging deep to pull this stuff out of his butt. I am willing to bet that there were a lot of people who didn't buy the story of a guy rising from the dead, doubting Thomas. Anybody? Just because you claim things and suggest that they might have happened doesn't make what you're saying any more true. Finally, using the Bible to prove that someone that Jesus, God, is true is like someone using Harry Potter to prove to someone that wizards are real. Hey, wizards are real, you muggle bastard. Just joking there, Trickster. Obviously. Like, subscribe, and share this one to all. And if you got some dollars burning a hole in your pocket, give it to GE so you can join us in the Skeptic Mafia, and GE will give you some neat stuff to play with while you watch these dumpster fires that we get to vote on. Got something to say about the video? A Mafia member can drop a comment and GE will read it on air and make you feel like a star. Yeah, so another thing is that on the premieres that we have, like, just about every day on the channel, you get to use the emojis for the premieres. And like I said, just about every day we're going to be having something posting where you can use those emojis. So, and we're constantly adding new ones. I do need to go in there and add another one before I lose the ability to add another one. And I'll have to figure out what I can do for that. But yeah. So Trickster, thank you so much for your comment. And then we got Diesel Jester. It says circular arguments are still circular. Yeah, nah, I'm still not convinced that his ancient book, which has been debunked many times over, is enough evidence. And then Grifter's Deuce, I didn't see them comment earlier, but Grifter's Deuce says, but it says the word, the true word of God. It tells you it's real. What else do you need? Didn't Bernie Madoff say he was on the up and up? He was trustworthy, right? Thank you there, Grifters, for adding your comment in there. Jason Cole Psych says, truly wretched. Other stories, glad you admit it. Foolishly, says the fool. Doesn't take political sides? Boy, the flock has certainly strayed. Yeah. All right. I don't think I saw any others. Like I said, I checked the actual held for review stuff. I didn't see anything there, so yeah. Anyways, I really appreciate everybody joining us tonight. It looks like there are 26 views on the video. See, here's the thing. I had to re-upload the video. Drew, apparently you left your original comment on the actual video instead of leaving it on the post. So if you're wondering what happened, I think that's probably what happened to you, because I see it right here. But anyways, so I really appreciate you guys tuning in tonight, being here for all this crazy shit going down. This month it looks like we're probably going to be able to donate $600 to the kitties and the doggies and all the other kinds of pets that are out there. Please check Google's pronunciation guide to Wretched. I'll have to check that out. Let's see. Define Wretched. Let's see.
Wretched.
Wretched.
Wretched. Wretched.
Wretched.
What other
Wretched. I thought that I remember pronouncing it as wretched, but I was like, that's wrong because it's actually wretched. And I don't know. Anyways, the English language fucks me up all the time. Zoomy in the chat says, here, I'll help. Huizala Chile. Huizala Chile. Interesting. I still will not remember that. Huizala Chile. Interesting. Yeah, this is definitely not the time for me to learn how to pronounce shit when I'm like, getting close to being a little tipsy. Oh man. Anyways, we've been going on for 2 hours now. Damn, I did not expect it to last this long. I talk a lot when I've been drinking. Anyways, I need to go, spend some time with KC. Sadian says, lol, little tipsy. Yeah. Anyways, I will see you heathens later. Y'all have a great weekend. Mafiosos, I'll see you tomorrow at 4 p.m. Central Time. And next week we got a lot of great shit coming. We got some great shit coming down the pipe. We've got one idiot talking about how the Great Flood created fossils. And then we got another idiot talking about something else. It's a director's cut, but it's I think it's it's not Age of the Earth. That premiered this week. I forget what it's called. Anyways, we got some great stuff coming next week. We're still in the Book of Job for the Daily Bible podcast. So if you want to know what the Book of Job says, it's still just a lot of bitching and stuff like that. And we're going to have another clip on Wednesday next week. So I hope to see you guys around on the channel. And we've got more great stuff that I'm doing scripts up for and everything like that. So if you're not already subscribed, definitely subscribe to the channel. We got great stuff that's coming out, probably some more TikTok things. And I guess I will talk to you heathens later. Y'all have a great weekend. And I will see you heathens on Monday. Bye, y'all. Let me get to there we go.